Welcome back. First of all, I want to thank all of you who took the time to wish Julie and I a very happy 33rd wedding anniversary, which we celebrated yesterday. So that was certainly nice that so many of you took the time to send us messages on Instagram and whatnot. It was great.
Yeah,
we
I agree.
We had a very relaxed, low stress, did nothing day.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Exactly. So today's podcast, and most of our podcasts, by the way, are sponsored by all of you. What you want us to focus on, what you want us to really drill down on and help you with, that's what we do most of our podcasts on. So when you have an idea or something that's stymieing you in your real estate practice, please do remember just to message us. And the easiest way to do it really is to message us over on Instagram. It's at Tim and Julie Harris. If you're not on Instagram, that's fine too. You can just text me directly on my cell phone, which is 512-758-0206. The topic today, and this is something that I think is kind of interesting that it is such a popular topic, is how to sell listings 3 times faster. And that's such a juxtaposition than, say, for example, 12 months ago.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really quite funny. And I have to say, I'm very, very optimistic and motivated about the housing market. More really great headlines, which are kind of interesting. They're kind of cloaked in bad news when you read them. But really great headlines coming in about real estate and what the next, I think, 12 to 24 months is going to be like. Mm-hmm. Increased inventory, new build starts is increasing, interest rates are dropping, more surveys. I think a lot of them are done with a political bent, but it doesn't matter. Pretty much everybody who's surveyed asking about housing is saying, yes, I want to buy or sell a house. The American dream is still very much to own a home. So all the wind is finally going to be at all of our backs, and you're going to see a very, I think, a massive increase in interest in demand and then home sales. And that's going to be, I think, taking place it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the rest of this year into next year. But into next year, there's really no doubt that there's going to be a huge comeback for housing, which is great because It's about damn time.
I think we can all toast to that. That's for sure. And one of the things that's been happening in the background in many areas is more inventory. And along with more inventory, naturally comes longer days on the market. And along with that comes more pressure on you, the listing agent. So that's why I think one of the most common questions out there is how do we actually sell homes faster and get our sellers more money in less time?
And so the title of today's show, as you can read if you're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or over on YouTube, is how to sell homes 3 times faster with these 5 simple hacks. And so we're going to be going through some of these hacks. Now, we always make our notes in such a way that you can then use them for your own. Maybe you're going to go and present this information to a seller. Maybe you're going to go on a listing appointment with an expired seller and you're going to show them some ideas of what they could do to position their house in the market so it doesn't expire again. Maybe you're doing some education of your agents and your team or your brokerage, or just, I tell you what I'd use this information for is this would be a great source of information for presenting on social media. Mm-hmm. So all of our notes are available to you instantly over on harrisrealestatedaily.com. So harrisrealestatedaily.com is our daily newsletter, and that is the newsletter where we print and we share all of our notes from the podcast. It's the only place to get all of our notes. We used to be able to print them all or publish them all on iTunes and whatnot, but they're now limiting the space that publishers like us can use. So if you want our notes from today's podcast or all of our past podcasts, there's something like 5,000 past podcasts, you can find them over at harrisrealestatedaily.com. It's a free newsletter, doesn't cost you anything. It's a no-brainer. It's a perfect way to start your day. So harrisrealestatedaily.com.
All right, so as you know, when selling a home and aiming to maximize the value, focusing on strategic improvements and presentation is key. So we have the top 5 things that can significantly add value to a home and help you sell it for top dollar. Now, these were well researched. I've got some statistics in here, but Tim, I also want you and I to pull from our own vast experience and knowledge, and I'm sure that we'll throw some stories in here as well just to keep it interesting. But these are all with stats and facts behind it, because there were a couple in there where I thought, I don't know, does that really make a difference? But then this is all backed up from my own research and NAR, Zillow, Redfin, Reader's Digest, Home Depot, and many more surveys.
It's worth mentioning too. So if you're not staying up on listen to the podcast daily, make sure you listen to the one that we did on September 16th. And that was an interview with Rob Johnson. Now, Rob Johnson, who, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, is really what I would consider an ultra luxury agent. He had I think his average sale price is $4 million, but he's had sales that are over $50 million, things like that. And he's the number 1 agent in his brokerage in Greenwich, Connecticut. Just all the things, right? And so we were talking about a lot of these things during his interview, because he does pick up a lot of yet to be sold listings. Those would be listings that expired. He does pick up a lot of new listings as well. But in a market like where he's selling, say, a $10 million house, you'd be really, I think, shocked how frequently some of these very basic things are overlooked just as much as they are on an inexpensive, first-time buyer. Well, inexpensive, air quoting, right? I shouldn't even say that because no homes are inexpensive anymore. Yep. But, they also apply to first-time home buyer homes. So it doesn't matter what market segment you're in or price point you're in. Make sure you're listening closely. So the first one, Julie, is enhancing curb appeal. And that is something that, is so easily overlooked because from a seller's perspective, they just get used to looking at the front of the house and not seeing.
They're used to it.
Right, they're used to it. And what's more is a lot of times homeowners will essentially position their house, or how do I say this? The house looks the same as all the neighbors' homes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look any better.
Sure.
Hopefully it doesn't look worse.
Kind of fits in.
Right, it fits in. But in order to sell a house, it has to look exceptional.
It has to stand out.
And Julie has some great statistics.
Okay, and I like point number one the most because this is not just about getting it, I guess ultimately it is about getting it sold faster, but it's having a buyer decide they want to see it at all. If you've got screwed up curb appeal, that's the point number one. Enhance curb appeal and you can sell it for up to 10% more. So first impressions are crucial, and the exterior of the home is the first thing a potential buyer sees, whether that's with their buyer's agent or whether that's online or whether that's driving by. So enhancing curb appeal can make a huge impact, and that has several things that go into it. Simple landscaping, trimming the bushes, add flowers. If you're in the desert, I guess you rake your lawn, right?
You rake
your sand. Yeah,
and
ensure the lawn is well maintained. A tidy, appealing garden can increase perceived home value by up to 10%. And basic landscaping can provide a 238% return on investment. Again, this is backed by all kinds of research.
And what's interesting is, I know this seems like a basic thing, but remember, you need to share this on social. You need to share this with your sellers and educating other agents as well. It's often not adding landscaping that makes a difference. It's removing the nasty looking stuff that has,
de-landscaping.
Exactly. De-landscaping almost always makes a more significant impact than adding, which sellers should be happy about because it's not going to require them spending a lot of money.
Yes, it costs less to pull weeds, for example, than it does to add plants. Exterior paint colors, neutral tones, light gray, greige, they call that gray, beige, and white are top performing exterior colors that help homes sell faster and for higher prices. Studies from Zillow found that homes with these colors tend to attract more buyers, and additionally, homes with a black or dark gray front door can sell for as much as $6,000 more than expected.
Now, that's hilarious because, no thank you, but here's the thing. We're painting all of our rentals. When they come up for rent.
Yep.
Julie sends me pictures when they went through their rehabs, usually between tenants.
Yep.
And I'm noticing a recurring theme. All the shutters in the...
Black trim, black door, black, what do you call the dimensional roofs? That's a thing right now. So I do think that this changes over time, and you have to stay up on what, the trends are without being too trendy, but that seems to be a thing. So I guess I'm not surprised black or dark gray front door wouldn't necessarily be my first choice, but research says $6,000 more than expected. Updated front door and lighting, a new door, new hardware, and updated light fixtures at the entrance can make the home feel modern and inviting. A wreath on the door, plants on the porch, and a doormat can make all the difference. For example, we also, in addition to the black door you were talking about, we added larger, more modern-looking house numbers that are black. So there you go.
Well, so you're going to have sellers, that have gotten so used to looking at the older stuff on their homes, and they're not going to be objective about essentially the adverse effect that's going to have on the sellability. So lean into these notes and make Julie and I the bad guy when telling them they have to do these repairs to the property. And then maybe get some work done, get some numbers in mind. You could replace a front door depending on the nature of the door and do all the other suggestions that Julie just rattled through for really not that much money, relatively speaking, to the return that they'll get on the investment. So when you're dealing with sellers, sometimes they're a little bit obstinate about doing any improvements to the property. They're trying to break up with the house because they're moving on in their lives, that type of thing. This is true for investors as well. You should maybe approach it from a return on investment perspective. Mm-hmm. That's the way really anybody would think about it. Like, so if Mr. Seller, if you can spend, say, $10,000 putting the house in tip-top shape and making it really marketable, but it's going to earn you another $30,000 or $40,000 statistically, would you want to make that $10,000 investment for that kind of return? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and selling at all could be the difference as well.
And the reason that they will sometimes be hesitant to do the work isn't because they don't see the logic. It's because they don't have the, essentially the service providers to do the work. So you're going to have some, service providers in your back pocket, handyman type that can knock the work out relatively quick. And that's, that's something that anybody who's sold, especially in the listing side, homes for a long period of time, you always have 3 or 4 really kick-ass handymen in your back pocket. But that's something, again, that makes it, gives you a unique selling tool, unique selling proposition when you're competing for listings. You're going to, it's so funny. I was just watching a video on the evolution of AI. This will relate, I promise, dear listener. And Julie's laughing because she wants to see how I loop this in. So current AI, let's just be honest, is like a grandiose version of Google, right? So it's giving you information. It's kind of giving you real drill down. Let's just say it's a high schooler's. Like if you had I'd say a smart high schooler. And you were asking them to complete tasks, the kind of results they would give you some answers that they researched online, but they wouldn't necessarily give you any solutions, let alone solve the problem. Well, the new AI, and they're calling it agent, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen, what's the movie where the agents were trying to kill everybody?
Oh, I know. What was it? Wasn't it called AI or something?
Well, a whole bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the new version of AI, you're going to start hearing
It's called iRobot, I think.
Well, AI agent, right? So you're going to start hearing that more frequently. And with AI agent, with Keanu Reeves, Julie, AI agent, right? You're going to start seeing it not only identify the problem, it's going to do the work that current AI does, but it's also actually going to solve the problem. So with new AI agents, and those are going to start being released on the market sometime probably later this year, you're going to have a problem that you're trying to solve. But not only is it going to tell you the problem to create the solution, but it's actually going to implement it and actually get it done. It's obviously limited because it can't do physical work, but it certainly can identify what work needs to be done and then find the people to do it and then hold them accountable to getting it done. The evolution of all this stuff is really quite, frankly, it's amazing. And so, the loop into all of this is that if you're thinking in terms of like what the return on investment is going to be, it's exponential when you do some of these basic repairs and positioning of the house on the market. So start thinking bigger and realize that even though we're suggesting that you do more work, I think relief is going to come to you in the form of AI very soon.
Yes, I like how you loop that in. So, because some agents are thinking, well, gosh, I don't know if I want to organize all of that. Well, your AI agent might be able to do that for you.
Well, because really what we're seeing is we're going to see a bifurcation in the market between agents that are knowing how to use AI and agents that aren't. And it's always been, you could always say that technology-based agents versus non-technology-based agents. But what AI is going to do is really going to make it so that really smart agents are going to be able to focus all their energies on direct, hyper-personal, very high-level communication with their clients. That's the reason that you guys got to start getting more comfortable with delegating some of the AI stuff. Obviously, Julie and I are going to talk about it more, and we're going to, do our best to make you comfortable with it. We're going to figure out what the best of breed AI is for you to start using to evolve your business so you stay competitive. Now, we're sensitive to the fact that the average agent listening to us has been in the business for more than 5 years, is earning over $100,000 per year and is in their mid-50s. 56 is our demographic. We realize that, and that's fine. And I know a lot of folks are thinking, well, I don't want to have to learn all this stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that learning all this stuff is not going to be as difficult as you think. And this, for example, would be a great list of things that you could delegate to your AI. So start expanding your brain and make sure you're welcoming in these new types of thoughts because, again, it's going to be a bifurcation. Agents that know how to use AI, or rather agents that are employing AI and agents that aren't.
For sure. And we're going to do a podcast about that coming
up soon. A whole
soon.
bunch. I think it's going to be the topic du jour over the next 6 months.
Absolutely. Okay, point number 2. So point number 1 is super important. Could be the difference between getting showings in the first place. You don't get any showings, you're not going to get a sale. So if you have to make a decision where to counsel your seller to spend money or help them to spruce it up, definitely curb appeal. And point number 2, staging the home. So point number 2, staging helps potential buyers envision living in the space and can lead to faster and higher priced offers. So that's things like decluttering and depersonalizing, clearing out excess belongings and personal items. Remember, seller's moving anyway, good time to do it. Buyers want to see themselves in the space, not the seller's lifestyle. You need buyers to look at the home, not at the homeowner's stuff. And we could go on with endless stories about some of that, but declutter and depersonalize, whether that's mounts on the wall, maybe somebody's not so much into hunting, maybe that's family pictures or degrees. People get distracted during showings and look at and do their research.
It is worth noting that this is especially true the more expensive the home. The more expensive the home, the less personal it can appear. The lesser expensive homes, you're generally speaking going to be able to get away with more in terms of having personal stuff up. But really, the best way to try to explain this to a hesitant seller who, frankly, again, doesn't really see that, their pictures are of, whatever on the wall, or we just all kinds of absurdity that Julieta could be sharing with you.
Do you remember when sponge painting was a thing and there'd be a ring
my
around the
gosh.
ceiling because nobody wanted to get near the ceiling? That was
Well,
terrible.
but I mean, even more than that. I mean, we've walked into, you guys have had these experiences. You're in real estate long enough, you'll have these experiences where there'll be like naked pictures on the wall.
Like really big naked pictures.
Of like the homeowners. There was one, and I was
my
helping
gosh,
one of our
I remember.
coaching clients with this. He was listing a very expensive home in Hollywood, that was owned by a very famous person. That's all I'll say about that. But it turns out this guy had an actual, honest to God, sex dungeon behind a hidden bookshelf in this freaking basement. Now, first of all, I want you to pull those pieces together, but,
Right.
but here's the thing that amazed me the most. None of those things I said, but the fact there was a house in California with a basement, that kind of was...
Yeah,
that
there's
was,
a tell right there,
that
right?
was a tell, right? Yeah. And the whole thing, like he sent me a video of essentially it was horrible. I
How do you
it's just-
neutralize that?
Yeah, but exactly. And the seller didn't want to make it into, say, a wine cellar or,
Yeah.
a laundry room, those types of things. So, yeah, you'll have your own experiences and funny stories when you are in the business long enough.
Dear AI, help me overcome this objection.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, I heard somebody talking about there's going to be an AI. You're going to be able to walk through a phone with your phone on, and AI is going to videotape the whole house, and then it's going to give the seller suggestions on what they should do to depersonalize and position the house.
cool.
So it's going to look at the color of the walls. It's going to look at the appliances. It's going to look at the countertops, and then it's going to go back through. It's going to store that video, and then it's going to say, "Mr. Seller, do you know if you update this, this is what the house, this is the improvement. Just painting that wall this color, or changing that, whatever." And it's going to go through the whole house and give the seller an estimate of total cost to do the repairs and total return on investment. That'll be really kick-ass because it'll save you from actually having to do the staging of the house yourself. Now, I'm going to also suggest if you walk into a house and it's a real problem house, and let's say it's a house that maybe merits some staging. Let's say the seller's furniture is just awful, as frankly, sometimes the case. Again, they live in it. They don't see it. They maybe bought all the furniture.
Maybe they love it.
Yeah, right. They bought the furniture 30 years ago. You got to be super careful of keeping your yaps shut about any criticism, even after you have the listing, because if that person's super amiable, you're going to start having that seller work against you out of spite. And we have seen and heard, we picked up listings when we sold real estate where the seller just frankly got pissed off at their listing agent, despite the fact the listing agent was trying to tell them the truth, but the listing agent had no bedside manner. So if you're dealing with more expensive sellers and you walk into a house that's a bit of a challenge, the best move is to actually hire somebody, you pay them, and have the person go through, and they can basically be your hitman for you.
Yeah,
They can walk through and they can write all down a list of the things that they see in the house that should be repaired, and then they share it with the seller and they share it with you. That way you've got a third party that you can make the bad guy.
It's like a staging counselor, basically.
Yeah, but it's not you. It's the point.
you.
Your job is to always be friendly, nice, optimistic. Never be the bearer of bad news, because even if you told them 10 happy things, they're going to remember the one crappy thing you told them.
That's right. Well, but you do still have to deal with this. So staging, decluttering and depersonalizing, we talked about. Neutral color palette, repainting the walls using neutral tones, white, gray, or beige, can appeal to a broader audience because they can imagine their own pictures on those walls. And furniture placement. Tim was just talking about potentially ugly furniture, but also arranging furniture to highlight the home's best features like large windows and open floor plan. Too much or too little, especially too much furniture, can detract from the room's appeal. And remember, too, if you have a funky floor plan, don't make it worse by having the rooms or the flow not making any sense.
Degrees on the wall, family pictures, people love to display. I'm guilty of this, to be honest. But people love to display some of their collectibles and things like that. All that stuff needs to be put away. The house needs to feel boring. If the house is for sale, it's not, it's supposed to look and feel like a model home.
Well, the theme is you want the buyer to imagine their stuff, their furniture, their decorations, their pictures, not be distracted by the homeowners.
And you got to take that outside too. They might have a pet cemetery in the backyard.
That was written into a contract.
I know.
once.
There might be a pet cemetery in the backyard that's quite big and ornate. We had that in one of our listings. And it was, surprise, surprise, the seller did not want to include the pet cemetery, for the new buyer. So
if I recall correctly, they wanted to move it and the maple tree that went with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that.
And
Okay.
of course, the buyer was more than happy to let them take their dearly
The whole
departed
shebang.
pets. All right, so point number 3, kitchen and bathroom updates. Now, this is the big one. It's also the hardest thing to talk sellers into doing. So we're going to give you a couple shortcuts from this, but the return on investment in bathrooms and kitchens is basically an 80% return on investment. It is bonkers how much money you could make on just doing an update to a kitchen or bathroom.
Yes, that's right. So, an example, several studies have demonstrated that swapping out updated kitchen countertops or quartz or quartz or granite, or upgrading kitchen hardware and lighting can cost as little as $1,500, but add up to $6,000 in resale value. That's the workaround to not doing the entire kitchen. At least you get those crusty old brass fixtures off or whatever needs to be done.
But brass is coming back, Julie, so you better
That's
be
true.
careful.
So you go to
Adjust accordingly.
Pinterest and adjust accordingly. Okay. Focus on high-impact, budget-friendly updates like refinishing cabinets or upgrading energy-efficient appliances. If you at least have the appliances done, then it's easier to deal with an outdated kitchen. Homes that offer move-in ready kitchens and baths are much more attractive, especially to first-time home buyers who prioritize convenience and cost. So the kitchen and bath conversation, the 80% return on a kitchen remodel and the bathroom updates are seen as a 70% ROI. Not doing it means you're going to have to price the house accordingly. I have countless examples of coaching calls, as do the coaches. What's wrong with my listing? And we say, send us the listing. Okay, you know the kitchen's outdated, right? Is this priced to reflect that, or did you just throw the comps at the wall and do an average? If you're not going to have the seller do these things, bathroom's the same, then it needs to be priced to reflect that. The problem is in not doing it, most buyers and home inspectors too, in their minds, they always think like 3 times what it'll probably cost.
Well, the real bad news is when the buyers don't have any real experience with all those things and they've been watching too much HGTV
Yeah, it just freaks them out.
and freaks them out. But you said something really important. It's worth replaying that tape a bit. Is that it's if they don't do the work, they're actually going to net less. So it's basically a all win if they do the work. So if they do the work, they remodel the bathroom. Now, I know not everyone's going to have the money to do it. You know, I know not everyone's going to have the time or the inclination to do it, and that's fine. Again, if you're in a lower price point, you can get away with it. But more expensive homes, if you go list a more expensive home, almost guarantee you, if the house needs updated kitchens and bathrooms and it hasn't been done, and competing houses with updated kitchens and bathrooms are the ones that are selling, what you're going to see is their house sells for 15, maybe 20% less than what the CMA told you. And had they done the work, so they're actually losing money by not doing the updates.
Losing more money by not
losing
doing
more money. But if they do the updates, they're actually going to make significantly more. So if you look at if they're not losing the money that they would have otherwise lost by putting essentially a below market, essentially the house that needs work for sale, and then you add in the return on investment, they're making a massive return on investment by doing the work. Again, this is higher level conversations that you should be able to have with your prospective sellers that most agents don't really understand. Get our notes from harrisrealestatedaily.com to save you the effort. I'll tell you, this is something else we talk a lot about in Premier Coaching as well.
What's that?
And this particular topic is a really topic du jour because we're going to be coming into one of the best opportunities probably in the last 2 or 3 years to go after expired listings.
For sure.
Yeah, expired listings. If you're wondering, if you want to know how to get into the, listing into the business, which all you should be focused on, expired listings, especially over the next 6 months, probably over the next year, are going to be amazing opportunity. The biggest opportunity in real estate, and there's no doubt about it. Why? Because there's so many inexperienced listing agents who are letting their listings expire. And your biggest competitor when you're going after expired listings are going to be the previous listing agent who the seller doesn't really want to list with because obviously that agent failed at selling their house, but they don't know somebody else. So they just figure they're going to relist with that same agent and maybe Bob will do better the second time. Well, with you knowing how to go after expired listings and showing the sellers why you are somebody who's frankly, an expert at getting homes sold that other agents weren't able to, you're going to find the world opens itself up to you, and you're going to look for you're going to see opportunities everywhere, especially with the expired listing thing. Premier Coaching, a big focus of Premier Coaching is teaching you guys how to be powerful listing agents. Matter of fact, in the first level of Premier Coaching, which you get for free, and all you got to do is go to premiercoaching.com or text the word premier to 47372 and you can join. So go to premiercoaching.com or text the word premier to 47372. You can have immediate access to the first level of Premier Coaching. And a lot of it's about expired listings. A lot of it is about, frankly, how you can really focus your efforts on being a listing agent. And yes, that does include a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. So make sure you attend daily. If you're in Premier Premier Coaching, make sure you're attending, especially this time of year, because all of our coaches are drilling down, helping you guys build momentum into next year. Make sure you're attending Premier Coaching every single day. Those of you who are not in Premier Coaching, the good news is you can join for free. The first 30 days, access to the first level, including all those daily semi-private coaching calls, await you on premiercoaching.com, or just text the word Premier to 47372.
All right, so point number 4 we're going to do quickly, and we're going to get to a couple of other things here. So energy efficiency. Now, I was a little skeptical about this because isn't everything energy efficient that's fairly modern? Well, according to the National Association of Home Builders, energy efficient windows can recoup up to 78% of their cost, and homes with solar panels sell for 4% more than those without. So an example is adding Energy Star rated windows, doors, and smart thermostats can increase the sale price while reducing days on the market. In California, homes with solar panels sold 20% faster than homes without them. Highlight energy saving features in your listings, especially in markets with high energy costs.
Which is everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
Use language like savings on utilities and eco-friendly upgrades to attract those eco-conscious buyers.
Well, it's always the eco thing because that's very trendy, right? It has been for a long time. But really the way to cut through it and really make it plain and simple is show them the cost difference with the upgrades that if someone's gone to the effort of putting in the windows and all
With
the
and
rest of
without.
it. But I don't think you're going to get very many sellers to replace windows as they're putting a house for sale. Their better bang for the buck is going to be decluttering,
Curb
fixing
appeal.
up the curb appeal. And if they're, I think, a little bit more motivated, then get them to do the kitchens and the baths. But going to the extent where you start replacing major things like windows gets into the tens of
Unless
thousands.
they're really, really bad in a super old house or something like that. It also depends on the price range. Certain price ranges, just having new windows at all is good. You don't necessarily have to do top-end super fancy windows. So adjust accordingly. Now, point number 5, fresh paint and flooring, 107% ROI on paint. Zillow's analysis shows that homes painted in neutral tones like light gray or beige sell faster and appeal to a broader range of buyers. And interior paint offers 107% ROI, making it also a high value improvement. A home with freshly painted interiors and neutral tones can boost perceived cleanliness and modernity. Investing $1,000 to $2,000 on a fresh coat of paint can add $2,000 to $4,000 in the final sale price. And a flooring insight, upgrading to hardwood or luxury vinyl plank. There's a lot of fancy.
Again, depending on what your price point is.
Yes, can add $5,000 to $7,000 in value, and exponentially more if you're talking about a bigger house. And there used to be a rule that I know that we used to follow is if you're changing floor type more than once, really it should be very consistent, has a higher end look.
What you're saying is basically there's no decorators or designer or architectural, right? That when you walk in the house, if you see more than 2 different types of flooring, somehow that is visual clutter and the brain just automatically dislikes what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. The best solution is having one type of flooring all the way through the house. Again, you're getting into the weeds with all of this, but the reality of it is all these little things. When you're going to talk with the seller, and again, I tried to pivot your minds to think about now going to talk with expired sellers, and you're trying to explain to the seller why the house maybe didn't sell. It's price, condition, location. That's the essence of it. And so you can go down this list. So like Mr. Seller, fortunately the location of this house is fantastic. I mean, you've got a good backyard. There's no road noise. There's, it's close enough to the all the things, right? Then you get into the condition. So Mr. Seller, here are some things that, according to this, amazing podcast I listen to every day, that are suggested in the return on investment. And based on the feedback you had from the previous listing agent, from the showings that you had, if they didn't have any feedback from the previous listing agent from the showings they had, that's a red flag to the seller that they should have been getting feedback from the previous listing agent, which is another angle for you to obviously get the listing because you are really good at getting feedback. We teach you that in Premier Coaching. But based on the feedback that hopefully they got from the previous listing agent, the sellers or the buyers were not, liking the this, that, and the other, to point out the wallpaper and the age of the appliances and the 3 different kinds of flooring. Now, if they don't have feedback and you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, which you shouldn't be, then you can just go through literally and show them the pictures of the homes that sold while their house was for sale, and they will most certainly make note of the differences. And almost always it's going to be the condition. So the script goes, Mr. Seller, you really, when you're having a home that hasn't sold, or trying to position the house to be put on the market so that it sells in a reasonable amount of time, it comes down to price, condition, location. So fortunately, your location is fantastic. And Mr. Seller, as far as the price goes, here's the CMA and here's what it shows us and tells us about the different market parameters. So the only other thing, if you're not willing to change the price, or frankly, the price seems to be positioned correctly in the market, the only other thing we can really change is the condition. And if you don't want to change the condition, and here's from, easy to do, low cost, all the way to expensive to do and higher cost. Here's the kind of I think the rainbow of options you have. If you're not willing to, change the condition, and I can help you do it because I have tradespeople that can more than happy to help you do it, and these are relatively speaking what the cost structures are going to be, then the only other thing that we can do is adjust the price. So if we have to adjust the price, your last, you expired at $650,000 based on the feedback in the houses that sold. We're probably going to want to put it for sale somewhere in that same price range, Mr. Seller, but to be competitive, maybe marginally less. Because here's the challenge. We now have to overcome what the market knows about the property. The agents are going to have a mindset about the house because they know it didn't sell. The buyers are going to have a mindset about the house because they know it didn't sell. So there's, we're going to have to overcome that. So we can either do one of two things. We can either fix some of the condition issues that are, based on the feedback and based on what we saw sell from the competitors, or we can adjust the price. Now, what I would suggest is that we do the easy things for the condition issues, and then what we do is that's going to give us not only put us back to where the house should be worth market value, because right now, based on the feedback and the fact it didn't sell, we might have to position it at slightly less than market value. Well, if we do the work, not only are we going to get market value, but we're going to get above market value based on what we see the comps sell for, but also based on this research that I've done for you. Now, that's a very long-winded way of summarizing a script that we have for you waiting in Premier Coaching, but that's a type of knowledge that you're going to want to convey to your prospective sellers, especially if you're going after expireds, because it's going to make you different. And here's what they're going to say. Why didn't my previous listing agent tell me that?
All the time. That's the number one thing they're going to say.
Yep.
Or even worse, I had coaching clients tell me that the expired seller literally said to them, well, I knew all this stuff needed to be done, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have time to do it. My agent never asked me to do it. I thought it would sell anyway. All of that is in the same umbrella of that objection over condition. And the script that you were doing, which they get in Premier Coaching, works brilliantly because you're still keeping the seller in control. You're basically saying we could do this or we could do that, which is best for you. We can either adjust the price to reflect the condition and or negative feedback, or I can help you to fix those things that have been negative feedback, which is best for you.
And the opening line for that, by the way, is sometimes the best homes don't sell, Mr. Seller.
Sometimes, and not for the reasons that you think.
Right. And sometimes the best homes don't sell, Mr. Seller, not for the reasons that you've been told. Because you're going to assume, especially with expireds, they've been told it's price, price, price. Well, okay, yes. But if you removed the ugly bushes and removed the horrible wallpaper and done a couple other nickel and dime things, you wouldn't have had a price issue. Matter of fact, the house would have sold in record time for over asking price. But because your previous listing agent didn't tell you how to properly position your house in the market, guess what? You had a failed result. And that's what we want to try to avoid next time.
Very well said.
Yep.
All right. So last but not least, quickly, of course, pictures matter. All of you have seen terrible examples. There's entire websites dedicated to terrible agent mistakes, taking your picture of yourself, taking a picture in a mirror, toilet seat lids up, all of those kinds of things.
That.
They know that,
Yep.
but please avoid the tiny iPhone pictures. If you look at it and you say, I don't want to see it, you've done a bad job.
I want to edit that because the new iPhone, especially this new one that's coming out, the 16 Pro
You're
Plus
assuming they have
maximum,
that one.
yeah, whatever it is. That actually does take the format of that new camera on that new phone. It's going to be the same as if they were using a 35 millimeter.
Yes.
So you just want to learn how to take proper pictures. But I'll tell you, pictures are trumped by video 99.9% of the time. And taking a video where it's stabilized, even as you're walking around with the new iPhone, is it's unbelievably powerful, right? Yep. So if you want to go to the next level, and if you're selling more expensive real estate, you're going to obviously want to hire a professional videographer or someone to take great pictures, do the whole drone thing. Yeah. But most of you selling normal price homes, a great short video and doing lots of videos around that, a video of the bathroom, a video of the kitchen, a video of the backyard, a video of what it would like to walk in the front door and experience the whole thing. A day in the life of this house and what it'll be like when it's your house type of thing. That's a great way to approach it.
Well, it's an example of, you were saying earlier in the podcast that one of the things that differentiates agents is getting a bigger chasm in between is the use of technology. Pictures are an obvious thing. Pictures, video. You've got to make somebody that's browsing around online be dying to see it. You've got to make that seller that's down the street who's about to expire, who's doing their research, looking at how your listing looks, maybe they want to call you, make them be dying to talk to you.
But no amount of photography or virtual tours or flexible showing dates or anything is going to overcome improperly priced home,
Correct.
Bad location, and bad condition, right? The old rule is it's price, condition, location. You can have one of the things be a little bit not right, And as long as say for example, you have location that's not great, but you have great price and you have great condition, that house will sell. If you have not great price, but you have great condition, great location, that house will sell. But if you have two of the three, that house ain't selling. It's going to be an expired listing. Your ideal situation is you have all three of them right. But when it comes to spending a lot of money on marketing, if you're marketing a house that needs tons of work and it's in really bad shape, you're not doing yourself any favors, because at the end of the day, it's still not going to sell because it's in ratty conditions. Does that make sense, Julie?
It absolutely does. So these are things not to ignore. Don't wait for your listings to expire on you because you weren't proactive. The best time to deal with this is before you put it on the market. So for more help with this, become a Premier Coaching client, and we look forward to seeing you on your daily semi-private coaching sessions.
And guys, thank you for the 5-star reviews over on iTunes. If you love our podcast, as we know thousands and thousands of you do, you listen to us every month, we would certainly appreciate a 5-star review and a little comment why you like the podcast. We put our hearts and souls into this thing every single day, so you guys have an unfair advantage that's absolutely needed in this marketplace. So please do take the time, takes 2 seconds, to give us a 5-star review and a little comment over on iTunes. We would certainly appreciate it. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.